Good afternoon, PRüF community. It is Wednesday, March 3rd, and we have a community update and AMA for you today. AMA answers. This week we chose 3 winners, so each one will receive 10,000 PRüF. That's likely to be a pretty good chunk of change after the split in the IDO. So be sure and submit your questions for the next AMA by Friday. Okay, so the first one forwarded, let's see, from Cryptomania. Cryptomania, congratulations, you're one of our winners. Your number one mantra is privacy first. This means that the privacy of the users is paramount to you. So how are users' privacy being protected by PRüF, and how can you guarantee that funds are safe? Well, primarily, PRüF protects your privacy by not storing personally identifiable or sensitive information on the blockchain. It's important, because by design, the blockchain is basically a public document. So anything on the blockchain is inherently public. So what PRüF does is it allows owners and only owners to verify their identity to someone else. And it does that by storing like a digital, something you might call it, we call it a digital shadow of the information that you give PRüF. And that shadow is impossible to replicate without the original information. So if you happen to know the original information, like your ID and the information that you used to make the record, then you're able to replicate that and prove, yes, this is in fact my possession on the blockchain without anybody being able to look up like your name and try to find what you maybe have stored in PRüF. That simply does not work that way. The information that they would be looking for or trying to match simply is not there. So that's basically how we manage privacy on chain. Is we don't store your personal information in the first place, and that makes it a lot easier to make sure that it doesn't leak out. Okay, Hakeem, congratulations. Your question is: the private sale has ended, and the ICO for PRüF is scheduled to take place between April to June. And that's Q2. This to me is a long time to wait after the pre-sale. So what is the strategy behind this long wait? And can you explain how users will benefit from the long wait and if the wait will be worth it? Okay, sure. I think a lot of people are confused by this, so I'm really glad you asked. The airdrop in the private pre-sale occurred at a very, very early stage. We still have a way to go before we have built the community, the ecosystem, and the infrastructure that we want to have in place to give the best value to token holders. When we have the IDO, we want to make sure that we're providing a strong value proposition at that point, and people are able to invest in something that's actually functioning and in public use at that time. So many pre-sales occur right before the initial offering, and I think maybe a lot of people expected this pattern here as well. So the private sale in our case, though, was really an opportunity for very early stage community members and insiders to get involved in the project, and the idea being to get in sort of on the basement level before the project gained significant traction. I think that the people that were involved in this stage are going to see that it proves to be an excellent timing, excellent timing for them to have gotten in. So although it may be a little bit unconventional and isn't the normal pre-sale right before the initial offering pattern, I think that the people that participated are going to be very, very pleased with the results. Okay, and the next question we have here is from Doobie. And Doobie says, just to hear it in the team's words, I would like to know what the difference is and maybe even the similarities are with Vechain. Okay, well, there's certainly some superficial similarities between PRüF and Vechain, so I'm really glad to get a chance to address this question. Because of the superficial similarities in the way that they look, comparing some of the features, it's certainly a natural thing to expect some comparisons here. But while Vechain is primarily a supply chain solution with its own blockchain, and for that, its RFID tag based functionality is a pretty good fit, really, for the supply chain. They do have some end user interface features as well, but their emphasis is really on supply chain provenance and trusted chain of custody. And that is certainly a good approach for some sections of industry. And actually, we're able to replicate that same functionality as a sub feature set of PRüF with no difficulty. Vechain relies upon the materials and products running through the official channels primarily, where they can be checked, which doesn't really address the problem, the potential problem of alternative illegitimate supply chains in their entirety. Certainly, the consumer-facing side of that does make it possible if the consumer uses an RFID tag reader of some kind, but most people aren't carrying that around, and it's certainly not something that's easy to check in the store, although ultimately, for very high value items, it can definitely be used to provide a pretty good check of authenticity and provenance. So it's a good solution in the markets where it fits. Data from Vechain is typically publicly verifiable, which is great for transparency. That's really what you want in a transparency-based product. But that's really where the goals of Vechain start to diverge quite a bit from PRüF in the provenance role. PRüF being a privacy-centric platform, more user-facing and less industry-facing as far as provenance goes. Although, like I said, certainly with a subset of PRüF functionality, we can replicate those industry supply chain. Industry supply chain tracking and batching and all of that stuff is actually supported in the protocol, but that's not the initial focus of the product. So PRüF systems are designed to offer either transparency or privacy, or a mix of the two, depending on the application. And we're focused on continuing to serve the user of a PRÜF-enabled item, long after the purchase. And provide additional services, custody and loss prevention, things like that, to users of PRÜF-enabled assets. And it's sorry, I got a lot to say about this, so I got it written down here. In its authenticity verification role, PRÜF is designed primarily as a provenance solution for the people that will buy and use the item, like I say. And in order to do that, so that we can deal with the alternative supply chain problem, where the retailer is the end point of an illegitimate supply chain of some kind, of possibly stolen goods or possibly falsified goods. What we allow is to make sure that users can check not only the provenance, but also if a similar item or a copy of that item, a copy of that registration tag has already been inspected or purchased by someone else, and that sort of gives a double check on the whole system, so that if there's a group of copies, then only the first one is going to go through without being noticed. So that's sort of on one side we can track provenance and ensure that the provenance chain is unbroken and correct, and on the other side we can handle an influx of copies, because the individual QR codes, the individual registration numbers, are basically impossible to generate, mathematically speaking, to generate a falsified one. Vechain deals with that by using a cryptographically enabled RFID chip, which we can also support. But that adds a cost and an end user inconvenience, because you need to have the equipment to ping that chip and to verify that the item is indeed authentic using that cryptographically supported protocol. Since ours is basically an end user facing solution, we want ours to work with a cell phone camera without any application loaded on the phone, just straight from the camera. So that's how we've designed our system, and it's just a little different than Vechain in that respect. Let's see. I did mention we can use RFID tags as well for high value items. Let's see. To be clear, the PRÜF protocol can use, like I said, RFID or NFC as well as QR codes, but those cryptographic solutions are not a requirement for the end user level verification, which doesn't rely on supply chain provenance. So, you might be buying an item that is genuine, but it's not in the store that they thought it was going to be in, because it was, maybe it's being resold or something like that. So the provenance there is less trackable or less confirmable than the item itself. But in our case, we crowdsource the counterfeit detection at that level. In addition to supply chain confirmation of supply chain provenance, we crowdsource the counterfeit detection using the QR codes, so that if there's a batch, like if you were going to copy something and make it fraudulent, you'd have to copy a batch of these tags, and those are going to start showing up as being fraudulent as soon as the first person registers one of them, and then somebody tries to register another. It's going to be like, wait a second, there's a problem. There's a problem with this set of tags. Anyway, once an end user purchases an item with PRüF, they can privately tokenize that item in their wallet, and from then on they can control the disposition and transfer that item and its corresponding title. We don't store the personal information like we talked about earlier about the way we handle privacy, and but we do allow public information if a user wants to publish something publicly. That's also supported on PRüF, so that information can be linked to the item, maybe a certificate of authenticity or an appraisal or something like that they might want to have attached to it. Anyway, as far as provenance goes, the key takeaways are that Vechain is focused on transparency in the supply chain, and they deliver value to industry through assuring quality, authenticity, and logistical consistency throughout the supply infrastructure. And we can offer that functionality with PRüF, but at our core, we're an asset tokenization management platform, and so provenance really for us is just part of a much larger picture. PRüF Verified and PRüF Private Provenance are customer-facing solutions designed to assure authenticity and secure private ownership and commerce after the sale as well. We continue to offer value to users through verifiable but private asset management. And we offer ongoing value to businesses that use PRÜF tokenized items through reporting counterfeit activity and ongoing customer engagement. PRÜF engages not only the buyer, the initial buyer, but any subsequent owners to go back and engage through the PRÜF portal or through the brand's PRÜF portal, which gives them an opportunity for brand education, possible accessory sales, who knows. Basically, PRÜF can do a bunch of different things other than just supply chain tracking. We provide, I got a list here, so I'm going to just read it off. Verifiable ownership and identity without public disclosure of private information. Theft deterrence for any serialized fungible assets such as fiat cash, financial instruments, things like that. Frameworks for offering secure financial services such as secured loans, layaways, escrows, asset swaps, and other customized business logic. We offer a low-code to no-code platform for launching feature-rich NFT products. We have built-in mechanisms for monetization and marketplaces. We have a system for adding the feature richness of PRÜF to existing NFT tokens. So even if pre-existing NFT tokens can actually be decorated or wrapped as PRÜF assets, and we can add those features to those tokens. We offer tokenized, monetizable control and ownership of smart contracts. We have a lot more other things in development that will be coming down the pike here, but that's just a small subset of the things that we can do on the PRÜF platform. And hopefully that wasn't too long-winded. It does address a lot of items, but there's really a lot of differences down the pike there between the Vechain scope, which is fairly narrow, and PRÜF, which is designed from the ground up as a complete ecosystem for tokenization and asset management. Okay, so on to community updates. What are we up to? Let's see here. We're working on some partnerships, and hopefully we'll have some interesting news on some of those things out here in the coming weeks. In addition to those jobs, we are also rolling out the application, the 0.2 feature set in the application. The updated contracts are all in testing now, and we have rolled a full testing suite, testable end product out on those contracts at this point. We're working on that. Aside from that, we have some exciting news about decentralization. We have an update to our decentralization roadmap, which I will be releasing here shortly. But basically, what it boils down to is that users will be able to stake will be able to stake on any AC node. So basically, any proof-based business that runs an AC node portal, users will be able to stake on those nodes. What that will do for the node is the amount of staking that node gets is going to determine the weight of their vote in the decentralized governance. So basically, by staking, you're delegating your vote, and the higher performing platforms are going to pay higher dividends to stakers. So basically, that encourages stakers to make sure that higher performing platforms are going to be well staked because they're going to earn more. Of course, at a certain point, if it gets too staked, then that's too many people sharing the pie. So it kind of evens out the incentive to stake on high performing platforms. At any rate, that way the higher performing platforms end up with more community power, so that we end up incentivizing productive, economically productive uses on the PRüF platform and economically productive governance. So I'm really excited about that. It's gonna do away with our initial idea for D nodes, because every node will be able to be staked on, not just D nodes. So that's gonna open things up a little bit for everybody to be able to participate in staking and earning on the PRüF network. So I'm pretty excited about that development. We'll be rolling out the initial contracts for that actually probably tomorrow, and we'll be starting to test that system. We've got a really cool looking staking dashboard being built out by our UX guy. That would be Drake, and it looks great. And we're building the functionality into that probably starting in the coming week. But the contracts are going to start rolling out. We're going to start testing those contracts, and we're expecting to be able to launch staking on the testnet hopefully within 6 weeks. That'll be up and running. So that's exciting news. I think that's going to be great for the token and great for the community. Yeah, I guess that's about it, really. I mean, that's plenty to keep us busy. But at any rate, that's what we're up to, and we're glad to be able to talk to you guys about it. And if you have any questions, anything like that, make sure and leave them here in the chat. If you have anything you want to put in the AMA, make sure you get your AMA questions in. The more questions we have, the more chances we have for different people to win prizes. And that is 30,000 PRüF before the split. So that's going to be a 60,000 PRÜF after the split prize pool for every week. So that's actually going to be a good chunk of change. So I encourage everyone to participate in that. I'm sure that you'll find that it turns out to be a good thing if you do. Alrighty, very well. Until next time, you guys have a great day, and we will be in touch.